welcome back. All right. Thank you for coming on your, what is today? Thursday? Where am I? I had somebody tell me, you know, I see my the people I work with, and they're always a little bit grumpy, and they're always waiting for me to cheer them up. And I realized suddenly I'm an alien. I'm like, welcome to my club. So great to see you. You guys know that Diane has had. I'm putting you on the spot. We should just open this up and just have a few of you talk. We'll do that someday. I would love that if you guys would love that. But Diane has had profound right brain access her entire life, all through her childhood, and she was kind of you can correct me at any time. She was shying away from it early on, and then in your, I think near your retirement, you found me, and then you'd like, it's okay now, and it just really opened up and very profoundly and quickly. Is that close to correct?
Um, well, actually, it was a progression, a continuum.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of the pieces, but you helped me put all the pieces into this beautiful puzzle that
Beautiful.
is always evolving. No
So
end to the becoming.
there's no end to the becoming, and it you want an end of yoga example. She's right there, guys. End of yoga, right there. Beautiful, beautiful example. So I dare say I'm getting into that realm myself, and we have John. I don't think John is here today, but John as well is getting into the end of it all, and I have other students as well getting into the end of it. But Diane is just a really beautiful, perfect example of the end of yoga. And Madri's here. Madri has written her book, which is beautiful. So everybody should have her book. If you don't, I think you would enjoy it. Falling into Bliss. And I'd show you example, but I don't have it right in front of me. So really, really amazing examples. Nancy, can I put you on the spot? Nancy trained with Ashok as well. Nancy's here. And she has lots of stories about Ashok. Maybe you could share some of them with us someday. Anyway, lots of an amazing, amazing souls. And it's just, I love seeing you guys. Just amazing. Thanks for entertaining. Thank you, Diane.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Forrest.
Really awesome. Okay. So, Ramya, Forestji, I'm able to experience freeze response well for about 30 to 35 minutes consistently. However, mind is kind of like in a dream state, a pre-sleep state, juggling between losing consciousness and aware of something vaguely like dream state. I'm not able to go further beyond that sleepy state to full awareness state. How much do I try to alert myself? This is happening even after fasting and I'm well rested. Food and sleep is not the issue. Please provide some guidance. Beautiful. Beautiful question. And so remember the kahuna, they say, look, you got to go down and then you'll go up. And this is a very natural process. So the first thing we're doing, we're cleaning ourselves out and we're becoming okay with ourselves. And that okayness causes an integration automatically with the subconscious brainwaves. And so as that takes place, are you guys hearing me okay? I'm not dropping? Okay, good. So as that takes place, you're going to feel as if you're going to feel yourself entering into those slower brainwaves. And I've heard people say, well, I feel like I'm getting fuzzy or drowsy. or like you're saying, this sleep like, dream like state. And so now you're in the juggling act. And this is what I call the gauntlet of sleep. Will I fall asleep, which is my habit? My habit is as soon as I hit that sleepy state, I just conk out, right? Or will I manage my way through it and maintain this balance? So imagine you're going through a gauntlet and you've got to balance on a little board, right? And you've got a stick so that you can balance. Well, one side of that stick is I'll use this one, the left brain. One side of that stick is the left brain, the conscious mind, and I've got to keep balance there. And the other side are all of the sleepy brainwaves, alpha, theta, delta. And I've got to maintain a balance. And this is something that almost nobody does. Maybe some out of body experience people do this, but nowhere else in your life are you asked to do this. Now, high performance sports, martial arts will ask you to stay in a flow state. And they're using a little bit of this, but you're using it even more. So nowhere in life do we have this skill, really, except here, or if we're practicing yoga nidra. So we have this balancing act. And sometimes it's good to, so one trick, which it sounds like you already heard me say this, one trick is, first of all, make sure you don't have too much food in your stomach that will weigh you down, right? Another trick is make sure you're well rested. And even when you say, oh, I got plenty of rest, still, if you lay down for 5 minutes and then come back to your meditation, is it better? That's a trick. And I thought it was only my trick. And then I heard it from Delson Armstrong. He said the very same thing. I'm like, he knows the trick, because he ran into the same problem, that he can fall asleep. He's getting into those slower brain waves, and he needs to maintain this balance, and a little nap will sometimes do the trick. Now, sometimes it won't. And so now you've got to, if you're on the edge and you're okay and you're still present, that's okay. But if you're just nodding the whole time, like I used to go to meditations with the monks, and I remember I counted. I looked around at the room because I was in the back one day, and I looked at all of the monks, and they were all of them like this. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like 98%. And I went back to my room. I'm like, no, that can't be right. That can't be right. I went to the next meditation. Sure enough, I looked again. I'm like, oh my God, it's like 98%. I couldn't believe it. And so that's an epidemic of sleepitation, not meditation. And so a little bit, like if you catch yourself, once or twice or 3 times, it's passable, right? We're still on the edge. But if you're just nodding the whole time, that's a real problem. And now we've got to do something, because the conscious mind is dipping so far that the sleep is taking over, and now we're not getting the same benefit as when these are rightly adjusted. But it is a balancing act. And so what happens in a balancing act? It will go back and forth, and that is normal. That is okay. And so what do? Get up, walk around, get some fresh air, open your window, breathe some air, do some stretching, jump up and down, anything slightly exciting. And I always like to remind myself, what the hell am I doing all this for? Why am I here? And I used to ask, I used to kind of feel like I was losing my mind, because I would just ask myself that over and over and over in the ashram. What am I doing? Why am I here? What am I doing? And I realized later, when I started doing NLP with some people, that when you get super clear on why you are doing something, like crystal, like immediately crystal clear why you are showing up. It creates a, um, well, to put it in spiritual terms, it creates a really magnetic force. It's really, really powerful. And so I find that people who are very good in whatever field that they're good at, whatever it is, you ask them what is important to them about that, and they will list their values to you crystal clear. And if somebody's having trouble in one area of their lives, whether it's relationships or career or whatever it is, you ask them what is important to them about that, and you'll find that their values are kind of muddled. They're kind of the philosophy is not straight and clear. It's muddled. So the more that you can really align yourself by asking yourself over and over again, why am I here? It's really powerful. So that's another small trick. Like, why am I here? Oh yeah, enlightenment, moksha, liberation, divine mother, bliss, Shiva. Just remember some of that. Can you feel any of that inspiration? And that will draw you back. Now, in the Kriya program, it goes from a very still Kriya to a Kriya that has movement. And so that's also an answer. So I already gave you guys a little piece of that, right? I said, put your chin down. Now, whichever way you see me, I'm going towards the left, okay? This is my left, and then all the way back, and then I'm on my right, and all the way to the front. So that's a nice big circle, right? And so if you were behind me looking this way, you would see I'm turning my head counterclockwise, right? So I already gave that to all of you. And that's part of the Kriya answer. The Kriya says, I gave you something really still. Did you get any of the freeze response? You did? Great. Now we're going to break it and wake you up. See what happens. And so now you've got freeze, action, freeze, action. And that throwing of the action in there will wake you up. Also, Kriya likes to count. So it likes to count on a mala or count on your fingers. And that will also help to keep you awake. It keeps that beta brainwave active enough that it stays there. So all of these are tricks. All of these are wonderful ways to address this, but realize that the problem itself is progress. It's like, oh man, I had a really sleepy meditation. Great! You are integrating with the subconscious brainwaves, and that is why it is difficult, because you have to, you have to find your way through that gauntlet. And what is on the other side of that gauntlet? You'll have these experiences where, who was it who was here? He's like, Forrest, it was like I was lifted up into HD resolution. And we asked him, did you feel like you were asleep? He goes, oh my God, I felt like I was alive for the very first time. And that's either a touching of the superconscious mind or a full-on samadhi non-dual experience of the superconscious mind. And so that's what's on the other side of the sleep. And that's why we're trying to process our way through it. And so you have to be, the idea of meditation is that I'm going to become very, very comfortable with those slower brain waves. And then what will happen is you'll just walk around all the time in a partial subconscious integration. And so you'll go to a movie, and every single movie will stir your heart when it has a good message and it's a good movie. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to bawl my eyes out. Every cute baby hits you like a ton of bricks, or the cute cat. It's like, oh my God, I'm dying, because you feel everything. You're integrated. And that's just your normal state of being. So Trip is one of my students. Trip is like, I think I want to try out the Muse. I'm like, okay, but you don't need it. It's like, oh, I don't need it? I'm like, no, you don't need it. You're already subconsciously integrated. He's like, okay, but I would like to see what it's doing. I'm like, great. So get the muse, but you don't need the muse. So he gets the muse, he puts it on. He goes, this thing says I'm in a meditation all the time. I'm like, yeah, you're subconsciously integrated. He's like, I don't need the muse. I'm like, you don't need the muse. It was a funny exchange. So that's subconsciously integrated, and that's how you start walking around. And so I would bet that most all of you are in that. You're in that process. And so when you enter into meditation, it's even more of those subconscious brainwaves, and you just got to bring enough of the beta online. And which is simple as just, maybe I'm just gonna stretch my arms a little bit, kind of take some deep breaths, kind of wake myself up a little bit, and then settle back down again. And I'm just trying to bring up that beta enough to keep it alive so that I can pass through the gauntlet. That's the idea. So beautiful, beautiful question. Thank you. So again, the problem itself is progress. Don't forget, it's progress. Nancy, in your grounding crisis story, you mentioned SRF had no Om Japa and no Navi Kriya. What was the reason for this? So I think from looking at this and thinking about it for years, I really think that this is a problem that began very early on, because Lahiri Baba is correcting the problem very early on. So that means he had the same problem. Like, people are not doing the Om Japa. What is going on? And so he's correcting them in letters. And it's so important. His family gets it. And they put the letters in the book that was published, which basically, I mean, if you know that secret, you can kind of put together the Kriya, how it's done. And so right from the beginning, it was a problem. And if you think about, okay, I'm going to explain Kriya to somebody. Well, how do you start that conversation? It's kind of a lot. And so it's easier if you start out with spinal breathing and you tell somebody, well, you're going to breathe up and you're going to breathe down your spine. And they're like, okay, I got that part. And then they would just go off and they wouldn't get part two. And part two is the really important part that Lahiri Baba says, okay, but now you're going to do Om Japa in the chakras at the same time, right? So if you look at SRF and you, the first and the second Kriya were written by Dhirananda. So he wrote those. He split those. Up. So if you were to somehow squeeze those together, you almost have the full Kriya. And I think that's what he had in mind. And he also put in the very first Kriya, he said, you can also, and you can buy this on Amazon. You can see it yourself. So you just go to Amazon, you look up Yogananda, and you look up super realization, something lesson. You should be able to find it, and you can buy the first lesson. You can read the original lesson where it says you can also practice this Kriya in this alternate manner. And that was Dhirananda's devotion to the original Kriya and Lahiri Baba. And so he's telling you how to do it with the Om Japa. And it's almost correct. It's not quite correct because they're altering it. They're going towards the spiritual eye. And that's a bit of a mistake. Ashokji told me that's for powers. That's not for, that's not for enlightenment. So there's a different intention there. So that's the Om Japa and the Navi. Yeah, that's a huge hole. And so again, I think it's just not being able to complete the whole conversation. I meet lots of yogis, Kriya yogis, that over the years they barely practice the Kriya. They don't do the Mahamudra. And they certainly never did the Om Japa. And so it all starts to fall away. And so I think everybody, when I took martial arts, it was a really big deal, especially in a Japanese martial art. You will do it correctly. You will pass it down exactly. It was really, 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 really stressed. And I think some of the students of Lahiri Baba treated the whole thing a little more loosely. And so we also find that those people who might have treated it a little more loosely, they also became swamis, which was something that Lahiri Baba said, this is for householders. This is a householder lineage, whether you're married or not. He thought that the householder life was a more suitable life for Kriya Yoga. And so when Panchanan came to him as a Swami, he said, sure, I'll give you Kriya. Go get a job, come back, and I'll give you the Kriya. So I think they were just a little bit, they kind of got the idea, and then everything was kind of okay. And they didn't have years and years of watching people go bad with different wrong elements and go, oh, wow, okay, there's the reason. We absolutely have to have the Om Japa. So I think that's why. That's my take on it. That they, as far as Navi, I just probably was not emphasized to Yogananda. And as far as the Om Japa, again, it wasn't stressed as heavily as you find it in the letters. And so he was beginning the story. Here's something else. Khetri was not taught. But when one of the, I want to, Paulson, I think his name was Paulson. I can't remember his name. They used to call him Big Boy. That's what Yogananda called him. He was a really big, strapping guy, and he came to the ashram and he lived there, and he knew Yogananda. And one day, Yogananda calls him into his office and he says, Big Boy, I hear that you are doing Khetri. And he goes, oh, yeah, one of the boys taught me. And he said, let me see. And he opened his mouth and put his tongue up into the nasal pharynx. And Yogananda was happy for him. It wasn't like it was a secret that he was keeping from these people. It was just, I think there was too much. I think there was too much, and it was America, and he was having a lot of trouble. I'm trying to give Yogananda the benefit of the doubt here. I believe it was very difficult. So he told Big Boy, he goes, to finish the story, he goes, oh, you're going to have wonderful visions from Khetri. And so he was very, very, very happy and encouraged him to continue with the Khetri that he was doing. But when Yogananda came to America, they couldn't process that he had long hair. He had a beard. They couldn't process that. He thought he was a heathen because he has a beard. He's not clean shaven, and he's wearing a robe which looks like a dress. And so he'd go into the men's bathroom and they'd scream at him, that's the men's bathroom. You can't go in there, because they thought he was a woman walking around in a robe. So he had, a lot of cultural things to overcome. And he shaved his beard, but he said, I refuse to cut my hair. So he kept his long hair. And so I think just beginning the conversation, he thought that was enough. And the spinal breathing, that was enough to begin. And those who got close to him, he would continue that conversation. So Oliver Black, Dr. Lewis, these people got more of the story. And so I think a lot of it was left out. So great story, Nancy. Thank you. I mean, great question. All right. Kush, you're putting me in a pickle. Kush, are you here? You're putting me in a pickle, okay? Because Kush, you're asking, what is the importance of initiation into Kriya? I come to know about all 7 Kriyas from a book which was mentioned in one of the satsangs. Not recommended. It was mentioned, okay? And which is J.C. Stevens' Kriya Yoga Secrets, right? Revealed, or whatever it is. I also practice these Kriyas while incorporating HRV, BPV. It is very hard to find a guru nearby who has already walked on this path. Is it necessary or advantageous to get Kriya initiation for realization? Okay, so the pickle is that I know that you are working with Kanta. And so I know that I think you're also in India, and it's a very long distance to come and get initiated, right? And so it's very important, but it's not necessarily important in the way that we usually think about it. It's important. So one of the stories in Autobiography of a Yogi is that a student comes to Lahiri Baba, and he says, Lahiri Baba says, "Why have you come to see me?" He said, I think this was kind of a joke. He goes, "Why have you come to see me? I already initiated you in a dream." So Lahiri Baba gave him the Kriya in a dream, and this guy remembered the dream, but he still wanted to show up for initiation. And Lahiri Baba gave him the in-person initiation. And so that, I think that's the inner meaning. When it's that important to you that you can't make it to Lahiri Baba and Lahiri Baba shows up in your dream. When it's that important, I think that's probably the right attitude. And it's your connection with the lineage. And the lineage is trying to give you. Remember when I took the Sri Meru and I turned it upside down and I said, this is kind of showing you an ascension into the intelligence of the divine. That my little intelligence is here, and then I'm stretching it, and then I'm stretching it, and then I'm stretching my intelligence into the divine, right? And so it's kind of like Jacob's ladder, and you're following those ladder rungs back into the big holy. And when you don't have that hierarchy, when you don't talk with angels every day, then the guru lineage is that ladder. It's giving you the ladder. It's saying, here is one guru, here's the next guru, here's the next guru, and who's at the top? Babaji. Babaji. Revered Father. My big, holy, revered Father is at the top. And all I have to do is follow these guys back into the big holy. And that's what the guru lineage is offering to you. So if you are studying with Kanta and you feel that, then you are following the stairway back to the big holy. And if you think it's just about bringing your body, which would be nice, then it's going to stress you out, and you're going to worry about it, and you're going to go, I got to find some other way because I can't get my body over there right now. And that would be nice, but that's not the real core point, right? It's like Ashok told me. He said, my job is to introduce you to the true guru, which is up that stairway, right? That chunking up into the big holy, that is the journey. And that's why I'm always talking about expansion. All of the absorptions are huge in nature. That's why I say big holy, because it's such a wonderful, simple term. It's all very, very, very big. And the left brain, everything about the left brain is very, very, very small. So big is just the opposite of everything that we're trying to leave behind momentarily. And so think of it that way. It's a stairway, and treat it with reverence. And then when you can bring your body, great. Now, what I'm trying to do is create Yogacharya teachers that are all over the United States and in India and in Europe and maybe Australia, maybe New Zealand. I would love that. And so then it will be much easier for people to come and take the Kriya in person. But that takes time. And that's okay if we're treating Kriya like a lifetime. It's a lifetime achievement award. It's not um, one and done, right? In the West, we love to take pills and we pop the pill and we got the microwave culture. You know, it's everything quick, everything easy. And Kriya is really a lifestyle. It's really about, well, I'm going to do this Om Japa for the rest of my life and see what happens. And lo and behold, wonderful, beautiful things happen. And so if you treat a lineage that way, with love and caring and respect, and you treat it as if this is my stairway, this is one stairway into heaven, then now you're meeting the initiation with the right mindset. But if you just think it's about a body and I just got to show up and then I get the thing, well, now we're in the left brain, right? And so we've kind of missed the point. And so so yeah, you might have to wait for your in-person initiation if you want to stick with Kanta. But I think it's worthwhile. Now, another thing is, I have people that want to study with me and I just can't do all of the initiations. And so sometimes I'll say, well, go over there and get initiated with this Yogacharya and he's going to initiate you and you can still talk to me. And that's kind of how we do it. So you might work out something like that with Kanta. And I think that's wonderful. And now you feel like I've done the in-person thing, which is great and important. And you also are treating the lineage with reverence and respect and love and care. And so that's, I hope that's close to good. Thank you. Great question. Now about that book, I don't recommend that book. Now I can't stop you guys from reading that book. We're all adults and hey, I read it. I've basically touched everything that says Kriya ever. And so, not that I read everything because sometimes I get in a little bit and I'm like, no. And then, but most of the time most of it was years ago. So I read everything. And so Kriya yogis tend to be this inquisitive, I will find out, I will do all the research, I will find the answer. We tend to have that very practical mindset, which is beautiful. And so I don't want to discourage you. Well, I do want to discourage you. I want to encourage you and discourage you, but in the right directions. Okay. And so I don't think that book is good. Now the guy who wrote it, I want to say Steve. I want to say Stephen. I can't remember. Anyway, his intention when he wrote the book, I thought it was beautiful. I read his intention. He wrote it out on a little blog, and I read it, and I thought that's beautiful. His friend died. The secret, it was all this weirdness, and he was trying to clear that weirdness. And the intention, I thought, was very, very good. But when he writes, he's like, well, you could do it this way, and you could do it this way, and you could do it this way, and you could do it this way. And it's like walking into your kitchen. It's like, well, I could scramble the egg, or, and then you take the egg out and, well, you could mix the egg, and then you could throw in chocolate, or you could throw in pepper, or maybe you could throw in salt, or maybe sugar. And maybe, some people, they like to put in ketchup and mustard. And then at the end, it's like, nobody can eat this. And that's my feeling when I read the book. I can't, I love to be clear when I teach. And so when I read that book, it's like, oh my God, Steve, what happened? This is not clear. This is well, he's trying to throw everything in, and I understand what he's trying to do, but I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good teaching. I think it will confuse you. And so I don't recommend the book. Now, you're probably going to read it anyway. Great. So did I. No problem. I'm just saying, I don't like the way that he writes, and it's usually confusing. And just remember, everything, when you're breathing through the brain, it's not a good idea. You can Om through the brain. You can hold the breath through the brain. You can feel through the brain. You can do all of that. And don't overuse the spiritual eye, because that will give you raging headaches. Okay, so those are my two warnings with everything that he presents. And some of it, when I got the higher Kriyas from Ashok, they were so crystal clear and easy to understand. And I've read them in that book, and I recognized it was intended to be the same technique. And it was just like, Was what? So anyway, I'm not putting the author down. I'm just saying the he could so improve on teaching if he could make it clear. But to make it clear, you actually have to understand why. And that's what makes it clear, is understanding why. And that's what I'm giving to you guys all the time. And so understand that you are probably more educated than most people who think they are educated in Kriya, who have been practicing a Kriya for years and years. You are more educated because you actually understand why. And that makes all the difference in the universe. So there you go. That's my answer, Kush. Thank you for your question. All right. We got 2 Simons and 2 questions. Simon, I was wondering if it's okay to skip Yoni Mudra in my Kriya practice. And it's totally okay because I gave you that shorter version when you don't have as much time and you can't do the Yoni Mudra. And then you say, I'm very comfortable staying for a long time in Paravasta. Sometimes I do the second Kriya, which I like how it feels, and do another Paravasta. Perfect. But I never see the spiritual eye when I do Yoni Mudra, so I skip it sometimes. I do sometimes see the spiritual eye when I'm doing the first Kriya. So excellent question. And my answer is, if you're short on time, or the Paravasta is so good, it's like, I'm not leaving this Paravasta. This is too good. I'm going to stay right here. Yoni what? I don't know nothing. I'm staying right here with this Paravasta. This is amazing. That's perfect. I love that. But if you're skipping it because you don't think it works, well, I would say then in that case, do it if you have time, because it is a cumulative technique. And it took me, God, I think it took me, I was seeing the spiritual eye. So you're at that point where, yeah, J.C. Stevens, thank you. Thank you, Bernard. So that's the one that wrote the book, which I'm not recommending. Okay. So yeah, I think I was seeing the spiritual eye, and it still took another year. Now, everything is going to be faster for you guys because you have HRV resonance and you have the Om Japa and you have the Navi. So everything's easier for you, wonderfully. But when I was seeing the spiritual eye, it still took me about a year and a half before it became really easy and crystal clear. And then what started happening is I would just go like this and I would see it. And I started seeing it during the day. So keep that in mind. So if you need to skip it because the Paravasta is too good and you don't have time, totally okay. But if you're skipping it because you think it's not going to work, well, that's not correct. It's cumulative. So over time, it helps you. And you're already seeing the spiritual eye. And it's not necessarily that I practice the Yoni and I see the spiritual eye. It might be I practice the Yoni and then tomorrow I see the spiritual eye. Or somebody told me I stood up and I saw the spiritual eye. Another one said I sat down on my couch to watch a movie with my family and I saw the spiritual eye. All of that is perfect for Yoni. Great question. Now, next Simon. Hi, Forrest. Firstly, a huge thank you for sharing your knowledge, insights, experience, wisdom, and advice. Your teachings are so inspiring, powerful, effective in explaining, clarifying, and demystifying the yogic path. I appreciate all that, and it helps me know that I'm doing a good job. So thank you. I am wondering why SRF is very strict in relation to the number of Kriya pranayamas a student is allowed to do, when your teachings don't include limits in relation to practicing HRV and BPV. I am thinking that maybe I'm comparing apples with, I'm not comparing apples with apples, and would appreciate your advice. So the HRV and the BPV and even the Kriya, so when I teach so you can do a ton of those, and those are the beginning pieces of meditation, right? And so you can do a ton of those. There's no there's not going to be a side effect for perfecting HRV resonance, except that you will gain the first level of the yogic body and you'll just walk around in more HRV resonance your entire life. So that's not a problem. Now, the BPV, when I teach it, I always stress, this is like stretching, and we don't want to hurt ourselves when we stretch. Same thing when we're holding our breath. We don't want to hurt ourselves when we're holding the breath, right? We want to go very, very slow and slowly stretch ourselves. So there's a warning with the BPV. But why are they limiting the numbers? Is it for control? Is it for a worry? Well, I know that some of the Kriyas that they had, like the brain orbit Kriya, like they had people, my understanding, what I was told, and I haven't seen a document to verify this, but I was told that people were suing them for the brain orbit Kriya, which I warn against, right? And they took that Kriya away and they made a new modified Kriya, which is the one that they teach today. But they went through about, I think my friend told me that he had recorded 15 versions of the Kriya. You didn't know that, did you? They've over time they have published about, I think it's about 15 versions, if I remember correctly. And so some of those versions had quite a bit of problems. And so if you practice a ton of those and you're not practicing Navi and you're only doing spinal breathing and you're not practicing Om Japa, lo and behold, you're going to run into problems. And if you're breathing through the brain, it's like, this is everything I talk about, right? If you're breathing through the brain and you're doing only spinal breathing, you're not doing the Om Japa and you're not doing the Navi, and you leave off doing the Maha Mudra, ta-da, problems. And so they would limit the number, I believe. I believe that's the reason why. And when I took Kriya from Ashok, I asked about the number. He goes, oh, you're going to self-regulate. I'm like, oh, you mean I'm a human being and I can figure these things out for myself? Yes, that's it. You are capable of figuring out what is too much. And I thought, oh my God, I am in the right place. It's a teacher that actually allows me to figure things out for myself a little bit. And that's exactly how we do it. That's exactly how we do it. We do 12 and then you see, and then you do 12 and then you see. And the really big thing here is, okay, I do the Kriya and then I experience what it's doing to me. I enjoy the para avastha. And then I go back, I do more Kriya, and then I experience the para avastha. And I see how I feel. And maybe I start to have a little bit of bliss. And now I start to wonder, I'm going to go back, I'm going to do more Kriya. Is it going to help my bliss? I come and I look at my bliss, I go, oh yes, it helped the bliss. And then I enjoy the bliss for a while. And then maybe I say, well, I think maybe I'll go back and I'll do more Kriya because that was working, right? And I go back and I do more Kriya. And then I come back to my bliss. Oh no, I ran over my bliss with my Kriya. So the Kriya is no longer helping me, it's hindering me. And this is a really big deal because otherwise you get into numbers, Kriya. And this is the biggest complaint of the Buddhists about yogis. You guys forget it's about the nothing, which is the right brain. And the Kriya yogis say, well, you guys are too into the nothing and you forget the doing. And so what is the answer? Do, be, do, be, do. That's it. That's the answer. To go back and forth, and then you have the very best of both worlds, and always balance that inside of yourself. I'm going to do, and then I'm going to see, I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to notice, I'm going to experience, I'm going to be here now and find out what that did for me. And then maybe I go back and I do. And so if I run over my good results with the techniques that I am using, is that bad? No, it's wonderful. It's a learning experience. now I know, oh my God, this is exactly what Forrest was talking about. I had all this bliss and now I have less. And so I just need to sit here and enjoy. And next time I come to that place, I'm going to wonder even more and be more present and really, really enjoy the bliss because I already got what I came for. And so that's really important. And so that's, I wanted to share that. So Simon, I'm glad you asked this and I hope that that answers. And so, because I believe it's because they ran into so many problems, and Ashok said, "Well, you can you can figure this out. How many you're going to do, and how much time you have, and how long you're going to sit." And when you have the insurance policies, it gets quite easy. So, great question, Alexander. Hey, Forrest G, why does my spiritual practice blossom whenever I am single? And what do you think about experiencing strong deja vu often? Well, the deja vu is actually in your brain, and so when you get into certain parts of your brain, you'll have really interesting experiences. And so one of those experiences is feeling a secondary self, right? And we talk about the angel exercise, and the angel is there over the left shoulder, and the dark angel, or the right amygdala, is over the right shoulder. We don't hang out with that much, right? We hang out with the we hang out with the light angel, right? So that's an experience inside of your brain. And another experience, I had one yogi, and so you have this part of your brain that will see a face. And so, for example, did you ever notice that a car has two lights and it looks like a face? And they leave it that way on person because everybody names their car. And when you put three lights in the front, it looks totally weird and it doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. And you will not sell the car. And that's why cars always keep two lights, one on each side. And where they could put three, and they don't, because they found out it doesn't look right to us because we want to see a face. And that's an actual part of your brain. And so here's another part of the brain. One of my students started seeing eyes, and he saw Divine Mother's eyes, and at first it was a little, and then it was a flood. And I'm like, it's okay. He started to freak out a little bit. It's like, I'm seeing Divine Mother's eyes all the time. I'm like, it's okay. It's totally normal. It's a part of your brain, and you're touching that part of the brain. And he relaxed, and he got through it. It was okay. And it came down, right? It was not so much. And so when you have a lot of deja vu, you're touching a particular part of the brain in your practice, and that's okay. If it worries you, do more Navi, and you should be fine. All right. And then why does my spiritual practice blossom whenever I am single? Well, I would guess that it has to do with interest. So when you meet somebody and you have a crush and you're starting a relationship and you're getting into that relationship and you're that person for that time, especially in the crush, becomes your whole world. And so everything else by necessity is going to shrink, including your spiritual practice. Because it's just, oh my God, this person is just filling every nook and cranny in my brain and my heart. And so we just devote ourselves, especially if we're empathic or we're sensitive, then we really, really tend to devote ourselves to the person that we are with, especially in the beginning. And then you kind of get over the crush and you just get into the friendship. And when you reach that point in the relationship, that kind of, it starts to balance. It's like, I still have to live my life and I have a relationship, right? I still have to get up and go to work and finish school or whatever and hang out with my friends, and I have a relationship. And along with that comes the Kriya Yoga that, oh yeah, I also have this spiritual practice, which I really love and I'm dedicated to, and I want to make sure I give time to that as well. So most people would answer that question. They would say, well, it has to do with energy. But if you are young, They will tell you that it's because you're wasting your energy in a relationship, right? Through sex, right? And I don't believe that. And Lahiri Baba did not believe that. And so he encouraged his students to be balanced. He said, if you have a relationship, it's going to help you. It's going to help you maintain balance in your life. But he's not talking about a crush. He's talking about an actual long-term relationship where you form a friendship, and that leads to emotional, we hope, we hope, right? It's still a lottery, but we hope that that leads to a kind of emotional and psychological balance, which will actually help the Kriya. But definitely in the beginning, when we're just getting into a relationship, or we pull ourselves out of a relationship, it's like, oh, wow, there's nobody here. There's nobody telling me what to do. There's nobody suggesting we go eat when I don't want to eat. And suddenly, and so it was like, well, now I'm going to go do my Kriya. I love my Kriya. And so boom, it explodes, right? Um, so, or somebody telling you, hey, let's go to this party. I want to see these people, or let's go to this movie. And you're like, well, I kind of want to see the movie, but really I want to practice my Kriya, right? And so you get out of all of that. And then all of a sudden, all that energy goes into, that's normal. That's normal. But the reason Lahiri Baba said relationship or can be good is because of the emotional and psychological balance. Awesome. All right. All right. Thank you, Bernard. 2 years ago, I found your videos. I'm gonna come over here and see if where are we at. Oh, we're at 50 minutes. I'm waiting for that. Oh, there we go. Votek, I was watching the Reluctant Saint movie last week. Do you think Saint Joseph of Cupertino was indeed levitating? I've heard lots of stories about levitating. I had a friend who came to the ashram very early, and he saw one of the very old monks. And this guy, when you would see him in the day, he would walk super slow, right? Like an old man. And my friend told me I saw him take 3 steps at a time, like he was leaping. So, do I think he was actually levitating? He well could be, but I don't know. Probably. Did you witness some violation of physics laws as known to yourself? Well, that was my friend. Have I seen levitation? No, but I get into these states where the body. Do you remember that scene at the end of The Matrix? Anybody see The Matrix, the first one, the really good one? Awesome. So at the end, awesome, you saw it. Okay, great. So at the end of The Matrix, right, Neo sees all of the code and he can just see through the code. And I get into a state similar to that quite a bit. Like that's when I go very deep and then I come out of meditation, that's how I feel. And I often feel that way in the middle of the day. Like everything that I am looking at is paper thin, and I could just take my finger or a pencil and go boop and put my finger right through it. Like I can see through everything, right? And so when I'm in that state, the body and everything is really feels immaterial. It just feels like what? It's not it's I'm sorry, I'm not describing this as good as I would like, but it feels like what this is not real. This is not real. And I get to this place and I just start laughing. Like everything is hilarious. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, you know, I remember I was a gardener at the ashram, and somebody had their friend come from Oregon, and this was a old Kriya yogi, and he related this experience, which was so beautiful. He said, I was deeply meditating, and suddenly I felt Divine Mother laughing in all of the hills of Oregon, right? Which are just, it's just a beautiful, beautiful. I think I don't know if he was in his house or outdoors, but he felt that the hills themselves were laughing. It was Divine Mother, and she was laughing inside of the hills, and that story haunted me. And now it just happens all the time. Let me admit somebody. It happens all the time. So I reach that state. The whole universe is paper thin. I could just poke my finger through it. And it's all so hilarious. It's, it's all much ado about nothing. It's all a divine comedy, right? And so when you're in that state and somebody says levitation, you're like, oh, yeah, sure. Because it's not even real. It's a joke. It's a big fat joke. And God is putting the joke right in front of us. And we don't see it, right? He's waiting for us to wake up to the joke. So that's how I feel. I haven't actually witnessed levitation. When I do, I'll probably let you know. But yeah, great question. But my friend, he did see something like that. Krishnamurti said that he saw it. So, okay. Shangri-La. You ever heard about Shangri-La? Up in the mountains, right? I believe that is because the tectonic plates are pushing so hard. There's actually a magnetic force. When they go up in the hills, remember, they are cheating. It's a yogic cheat because all that pressure is pushing you, your energy, your consciousness up into the brain. And so it's a cheat. And so when it pushes really strongly in some of these areas, you get really, really, really weird side effects. Like there's actually a city like this that Todd Murphy mentions where they get tons of phenomena, and they're mostly weird, but I would like to go there someday and do just like hang out for a few days and talk about it, because it's this one place where the tectonic plates are pushing really hard and you have that energy pushing up. And so it would be interesting to meditate there a couple days and like see if you feel the difference, right? So that's, I believe, is what's happening in the Shangri-La. Like I've met lineages that said, we know the real Shangri-La. And I actually, I won't say that. But anyway, that's, I believe, is what is happening. And so, that could also be why some of these stories exist. When you're in a place like that and it's pushing up so strongly, are you actually seeing the levitation, or is the pressure on your brain so strong that you don't know what you're exactly seeing? I'm not sure. Like Amrita, when Amrita hits, it's really hard. It's so blissful. You're like, is this physical or is this all energetic? What is going on? And I really think it's the vagus, it's energetic, it's the pituitary, and it's also oxytocin, which is the motherly hormone. And that actually makes you numb. It makes you bear pain, which will numb the body and help you let go of the body. And it's also extremely blissful and loving and motherly. All of that, I think, is taking place. But when you feel it and you're trying to dissect, is that an actual flow of liquid, or is it just energetic? It's kind of hard. Like I will sit in meditation and be like, I don't know, because you're so blissed out. It's like, how can I know anything? So a great question. Thank you. Hi, Forrest. Do you know what the inner experience is like for someone who has accomplished stream entry, as it is called by the Buddhists? How does it relate to the states that this lineage discusses? So stream entry, I believe this is the clarity. So I believe this is relating to the dharana state, which is clarity. So you're now entering into a really deep jhana. The Buddhists would call it a deep jhana. And you have gotten a ton of the body and a ton of the left brain out of the way. And so you can finally actually control your mind. And now it's like you're flowing in a clear stream. And that's the stream entry I believe they are talking about. So it's a middle state, and that leads to, well, now I'm going to put my mind into the actual absorption. And we have a question about absorption as well. So yeah, so I believe that is the dharana, but I could be wrong, so I'll double check on that. But I believe that is the dharana, the clarity. What is often translated as concentration, but concentration is really a left brain power, and we're not talking about the left brain. It's really a matter of getting the left brain out of the way, and that clarity arises. Votek, can I help my close relative by oming into her health situation? If yes, should I ask her for permission? Yeah, I would ask her. I would like to om into you. Is that okay? And then sit with her, and you can put your hand on them if they're close to you, and om through your hand. You can breathe through your hand if you want, and say a prayer before you start. Divine. So whenever I'm doing healing, I always leave it on the shoulders of the divine. It's not on my shoulders. I am nothing. I'm just, helping be the conduit. I don't want to put myself in the mix. I want to allow the healing to come from the divine. So I say, Divine Mother, this is your child. Please bless them. Bless them, and that blessing that I'm asking for is open. And there's a wonderful study. They were praying for plants, and they found that if you do a prayer which is open-ended, it always had a better result on the plant, right? They thought the plant won't be able to get in the way, right? It will be a good test. And so I always pray like that. I always leave it very big and open for Divine Mother to do what she thinks. And then absolutely you can om through them and just do that prayer, just Divine Mother. And so here's a Huna prayer. This is a Huna process. So you can go to the angel exercise. And so today, right now, it's Divine Mother because I'm talking about healing. And so she's there, and I'm going to breathe into her. And so I'm going to say, so I might say the prayer first. So we're going to pray for his friend, right? We're going to pray for her. And so now I'm going to ask Mother to bless her. I'm going to say, okay, Ma, can you please bless them? This is your child, however you see fit. And now I'm going to breathe into the angel exercise. So I'm breathing not through my brain, but over my shoulder where I feel that angel exercise, right? So I'm breathing into the feeling. And so let's say I do that 5 or 10 times. And it's as if I'm filling Divine Mother's cup. I'm giving her my energy that this is real. Like I'm really asking, right? And I'm filling her cup. And then she is going to do whatever she thinks is right and pour that blessing on that person. So you can breathe through them. You can breathe into Divine Mother. You can also breathe, okay, I think God is straight up. You can breathe straight up. That's fine as well. Don't breathe through the brain, but just up in the air. That's fine. But I really like the angel exercise. I think it's very, very powerful this way. It makes a really powerful prayer. And so that's a really beautiful way to pray for somebody. And very often I will pray this way for somebody, and over time you start to feel like, oh my God, I can feel it. It's kind of getting full. And then Divine Mother will even stop me. She's like, okay, that's enough. Stop. Go away. I'm like, okay. And then the rest is on her. I let go. It's not my story. This is Divine Mother's story, and I'm just one more kid in the story. And so I always leave it on her. And so it's not about me, right? And that's how I get myself out of the way. And so just like that. And then let Divine Mother give the blessing. Scott, Kaya Kalpa. Kaya Kalpa, is that that's the live forever exercise, isn't it? I think that's the live forever exercise. Scott, you're asking about that. And no, I haven't worked with that myself, though I've worked with lots of nutrition. And part of the Kaya Kalpa, I think, if we're talking about the same thing, is they're using a lot of herbs, which have essential minerals and regenerative processes like selenium. Selenium is very can I talk today? Rejuvenative. That's not the right word. It's rejuvenative. Alala. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, selenium. It's good for you. Joffrey. Forrest, my mother, who is a psychotherapist, is using your timeline therapy treatments on her clients. She wants to rewatch your timeline therapy session 2 this morning, as she has a client at 1 California time, so I will have to view this satsang later. Oh, okay, no problem. Which I'm looking forward to. I will have to leave you now. Okay, that's great. Bernard. Hi, Forrest. 2 years. I found your videos on YouTube. Thank you for preaching Om Japa. I love that. Thank you. Ronan. Videos of John Cheng, I think, show some cities, not levitation, but pretty crazy and hard to fake. Yeah, there's a number of yogis out there that have done some pretty amazing things. I have heard stories of people who were there with Sai Baba. One of my students was with Sai Baba when he was very, very young, and Sai Baba sat with all of them, and he said, okay, this one's going to become a doctor, this one's going to do this one's going to do this, and he just told them all of their futures, and it all came true. It was all true. So kind of amazing. What is your impression of many of the New Age fields, speaking of the new, I think you're saying fifth dimension? Oh, 5D reality. Yeah. So I believe, so in general, I am not a New Age person, which you may have noticed. And I really sometimes enjoy the New Age world. And I love everybody that loves this kind of thing, right? I think it's fantastic. If you have any interest, it's like, I'm just a yoga chick and I'm in my yoga pants and I've got my yoga mat and I just go do my yoga and that's it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. I love it. You've got some interest in yoga. That's great. And you're getting some benefit. Hallelujah. Fantastic. But it's really not serious yet. That's okay. Maybe another lifetime it will be more serious, or maybe down the road it will be more serious and you'll come back to meditation and it will be interesting. And you've already got a little bit of the door open because you did that yoga practice. Fantastic. How can I know the twistings and the weavings of your life? I can't know all of that. And I'm not sure I want to know all of that like Sai Baba did. That's a lot to know. And so, so how can I know? I don't know. So I can't judge, right? But I'm really not a New Age person. I'm an ancient yoga person. And that's a big difference to me. Very big. So I don't go with every fad. I never do. But I can usually translate what they're trying to say. And so when they're talking about different levels and they're talking about a fifth level, well, if we're talking about the same thing, it could be what I was starting to talk about at the very beginning, where we're talking about these levels of intelligence. And these kind of things have been talked about for a very long time. So the Hebrew tradition has 10 levels of angels. The Christians have a system of, again, 10 levels of angels. And that goes back to Jacob's ladder, which is a very, very, very old story. And the Purushas, again, are talking about these levels with these angels and all the different experiences. And really what those are stories about the enlargement of consciousness until you get really, really, really big. And almost every time we're talking to Vishnu or Narayana or Shiva or somebody who's right before the very, very, very big holy, right? All of those are windows into the big holy. And so when they're talking about this other level, that would be a level of intelligence, right? And so sometimes those levels, you're going to feel them more than other times. So I might be talking about that. They, excuse me. So all of that is interesting, but well, it's kind of like people like to ask me, you know, what if I meditate with the moon? Well, great, that's great, wonderful. Does it help you? Oh yeah, it helped me. Okay, wonderful, that's great, no problem. But I find if you fast, it's even more important. So I always come back to what are the real basics? How is this really, really working? And everything else is just icing on the cake. So Pooja had to run. Yeah. Yeah. Scott, yes, you say yes, it's herbs and the practice. Yeah. I don't have the practice for you, but you never know. Sometimes yogis will give me the most amazing things when we're just having a conversation. They'll tell me, "Oh, I picked this up somewhere," and they'll tell me. So if I ever get if I ever get it, I'll let you know. But I think we can learn a lot from nutrition, and so the trace minerals. So I think I was mentioning this the other time. If you try out liquid trace minerals, and it's going to give you a slow burn energy. So, for example, when we don't have enough copper in our diet, they say the hair turns gray. So if you took a liquid colloidal that had a little bit of a proper amount of copper every day, would it reverse some of the graying of your hair? So I believe that's part of the practice that they're doing, is they're ingesting some of these really, really profound essential minerals, and also probably some herbs along the way, some special herbs. So that's all I know at this time. But if I know more, I'll let you know, okay? So, yes. Oh, good. You listened to an old satsang, and I mentioned Jacob's Ladder. It's so huge. It's a beautiful absorption. Let me go to that absorption, and then I'm going to let you guys go, okay? So I didn't get to everybody's question. I apologize. So Justin, would you please share some insights into absorption into parts of the subtle body? I think my chakra expansion experience was an absorption while my mind was in the chakra. A fellow student recently described absorbing into the Sushumna, which is what recalled this experience for me, and an absorption makes sense to my mind. But I would love to hear from you about this one. So when I am talking about absorption, I am selenium is amazing, isn't it, Amy? When I am talking about absorption, I'm very specifically talking about dhyana and that yogic process. So I'm using absorption as the word that fits, the English word that fits best for that process. And so this body is the domain of the left brain. And once I stretch outside of this body with my perception, my feeling, right? That feeling of absorbing into the air around me, feeling as if I'm lifting up into a higher degree of intelligence, feeling as if I'm being pulled into the nothing, then I am coming out of this left brain domain and going into that big domain, right? And so when I say absorption, I'm specifically talking about that. So if you have an energetic sensation which is in the body and your heart explodes, right? The portion which is in the body is still the domain of the body. But the portion which shoots out like this and you feel yourself stretching into the air around you, into the universe around you, that is the domain of the right brain. And that part is the absorption, right? So if you are absorbed, you want to, so you're using absorbed. If you're sucked into the Sushumna, well, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful sensation. If you get sucked in and then you lose sight of the body or you feel hugely expanded, then that was an absorption. But if it's just getting sucked in, that's just the freeze response and the dorsal vagal, right? So now we kind of have a distinction between the domain of the body and the domain of the right brain. So that can kind of help you in figuring out, what did I just experience? What was that? Always makes me think of Robin Williams. What the hell was that? That was Good Morning Vietnam. Great movie. So I would put it like that. And so to clarify, we have space, we have intelligence, nothingness, and we have the bottom of your mind, which is the beta brainwave is really, really small, and all you see are the subconscious proto thoughts coming up, but there's no conscious mind to grab those proto thoughts, and so they fall away. That's the bottom of your mind, so that's number 4. And then you can, so I will add to the Buddhists, and I will say there's another category of light and bliss, and that's when the energy actually wraps around into the left amygdala. And so you have a little bit of that light or bliss, but it's hugely expansive. It's not just bliss in the body or just here, it's just everywhere. And that's an expansive right brain experience now. So that's 5 basic absorption categories that can kind of help you differentiate which one of these did I just have, right? Or which one did I come close to? And all of that is the domain of the right brain. And so we want to finish our left brain practice and then see if we can feel some of those. Steve, you've been so patient. I want to answer your question before we go. I've read about several different ways of doing Om Japa. Which one do you teach? Then, of course, there's also the version I've been doing. Beautiful. I interpreted one of your older videos to mean we should Om into each chakra 1 or more times. And that's perfect. That's how I begin teaching the Om Japa. Just stay with one chakra, Om into it, get a feel for the chakra. And that really helps you to get to know those chakras and also begin to clean them out. So it's a really, really fun way to begin. It's really practical and very, very helpful to meditation and your whole life. And I just call that a free flow Om Japa practice, right? So that's the free flow Om Japa, which is correct. And this is something that Lahiri Baba would give to his students, get to know your chakras. Because if you're going to do the full Kriya, you've got to have some idea about them and some feeling for them. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it needs to be some. And so that's a really, really good place to begin the story. And then Om into each chakra 1 or more times, repeatedly, any of them as often as needed, absolutely. Before going on to the next chakra, perfect. Then I also remember a video in which you described a method shown to you by someone in which you took a long in-breath while doing Hakala before exhaling and then silently saying Om during the exhale. I did do a video where I said, let's breathe in and hold the breath. And then Om into the hugeness of the divine. Right? I said, let's breathe in, hold the breath, reach up, feel, and then Om into the space, and then come back to the heart, breathe out. Om, right? Is that the one you're thinking of? That's a beautiful immaterial meditation. So I'm giving you a small, easy version of that immaterial meditation. Also wonderful. But that's not the basic Om Japa. That's kind of I did all that Om Japa. I did all that HRV resonance. I'm in a deep place with my Paravasa, and I'm graduating to this beautiful Om practice where I'm stretching. I'm stretching myself into spaciousness and into higher intelligence. That's what you're doing every time that you do that. And it's all through the feeling. So it's not through, well, I cognize it like this. No, no, no. It's just feel. What do I feel? Whatever I feel. Feel that? In fact, try that. Try that right now. Just use your heart and just reach up. And you can do this because you've all been doing the Om Japa. You've all been doing the HRV resonance. So just reach up as high as you can with your feeling, straight up into the air, as high as you can. And just feel. Feel whatever you feel. And maybe there's a name that you can put to it. Is it peace, love, clarity? Is it Divine Mother, angelic?
Oh, it's peace.
Peace.
I'm feeling that more and more nowadays.
I love it.
I worry about myself because I'm not going to be here after a while.
Right?
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Now, do that again. And so now, the level that you just found in your heart, bow to that level. In your heart, with love and reverence, bow to that level. And now reach up again. Reach up one level higher. What do you feel?
Oh, it's kind of an excitement.
Nice. A little bit of joy.
Yeah.
Good. Everybody will be a little bit different. But it can be really powerful. This is an immaterial meditation. This is not a material meditation. So this should be done when you're at your deepest place. Then try this. And you just feel that. Now to that level, with your heart, make a little bow. And then bring all of that back down to your heart. Bring that back down. Isn't that beautiful? I can do this forever. I could just sit here and get drunk off of these levels of intelligence all day. and then nothing else gets done.
Yes.
But the real work gets done, right? So beautiful. So that's that second Om version is that immaterial kind of practice. So you can reach up an Om or you can just reach up. It works both ways. All right? Isn't that just beautiful?
Okay.
All right. And then,
it is. Thank you.
And then the third one you're talking about, that's the Kriya, which I didn't I give you the Kriya? That's the Kriya with the breath, right?
Yes.
The breath and the Om Japa together.
Yeah.
And you're describing one where you're doing it very long and the out breath is longer. That's perfect. That's the Kriya which I gave to you. So yes, all of those are correct. And so which one should you be doing? Well, start with the ones in the chakras, clean out the chakras, and then graduate to the one where you're going up and feeling. That's one immaterial meditation. So another immaterial meditation is feeling spaciousness. Another immaterial meditation is feeling nothingness. All of those are correct, and they'll take you to these deliciously deep places where you can just, oh my God, I feel it. And you just soak in it and be the holy potato. And that's it. That's the name of it.
I like being a potato.
I know, right? It's so, wait, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to figure out anything. There's no bills to pay here. Nope. Just be a potato. Just soak it up. That's it.
You're ruining my career as a theologian.
Oh, but it will explode because when you chunk up, you become more and more of a genius. So there was an NLP guy, forget his name, but he wrote about how to become a genius. and it was all chunking up. So he would write about different people and how they were strategizing their profound intelligence. But the basic premise of, he wrote like 4 books, I think. Dietz, I think it was Dietz. Horrible. I'm horrible with names. But he, the basic premise of all of that was that chunking up will make you a genius. And so you see like Krishnamurti, who became incredibly intelligent out of nowhere. And he attributed it to the consciousness rising, right? It's all the chunking up which makes you more and more profoundly, the profound connections are just unending, right?
Thanks again.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Love it.
Beautiful question. And we got through almost all of the questions. Sia, I think we're gonna wait for your question. Huge hugs to all of you. I adore you guys. Oh, Ronan, what do you say? Any suggestions for a walking meditation? I assume Hakala and Om. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely. And you're so welcome. Thank you, Ronan. So I did a video. It's called Meditation. I think it's called Meditation All Day. So watch that. And you'll see a bunch of suggestions. So like Om Japa in the chakras and Hakala and the cute baby meditation. And yeah, all of that. Just make every out breath a little bit longer. All of that is perfect. So, you guys are going to make me cry with all these hearts. And I adore you. So thank you. And God bless. And I'm getting blissed out just looking at you guys. Amazing. You guys take care. Oh, yes. You're so welcome. Thank you for all the bliss you pointed me to. Beautiful. Kriya Yoga is a bliss path. Isn't that just, that's just a crazy statement, isn't it? Where else? What are you doing? I'm doing a bliss path. What's your career? A bliss path. What? What are you doing? Yeah, the bliss path. Yeah, you know, the Kriya bliss path. What, that's your career? Who ever heard of such a thing? Oh, I'm lucky to have you guys too. So it's amazing. So thank you guys. God bless.